Good evening and welcome to the Minions of the Zoo. I am your host and keeper, the Harry Channel, and not the love child of Jordan Peterson and Kermit the Frog. How is everybody doing tonight?
I was fine. How are you?
Oh, yes, I guess I should name people off. It's Prospero, DrFunctional, Geodes, and Skep. Back to you, Prospero.
Yes, that was I. I am well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm actually, you always turn it back on me, which makes it hard for me to be gracious to everybody else.
Look, forgive me for being polite.
No, I know it's
you.
the Southern thing. It's the Southern thing. No, you're messing with my plan to be a martyr. Let's see. It's going to rain tomorrow, and I know that doesn't sound like a big deal for the rest of you, but here in California, it's a huge deal.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
It's actually going to rain almost 3 inches in Sunnyvale and a lot more in the mountains. We're looking at
Here comes the mud.
Yeah.
We're looking. Oh yeah. Well, shit happens. It's sorry your place caught on fire. Here comes the mud. But here comes the snow. More importantly, so we're going to get snow in the mountains. We're going to get rain, like real rain. It's not going to solve the drought, but it's a nice step in the right direction. I have some marshmallows. I have everything ready to make hot chocolate. I'm going to build a nice big fire in the fireplace, and I'm going to enjoy tomorrow to the maximum extent possible. That's how I am.
That sounds splendid, actually.
Yeah. The only thing that makes it worse is imaginary girlfriend is not going to be here with me, so I'm just going to be this sad dude by himself with my hot chocolate. Good me.
Hey, she has a phone, right?
Oh yeah, I'll send her a picture of it.
Commune over the.
Oh, don't
phone.
no. I'll send her a picture of the fire she's not enjoying. Don't worry.
Oh, good God!
Yeah, because I'm a dick.
Because you're a loving guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say all kinds of warmth coming.
Yeah,
out
I
of
know.
that.
I know how to I just give till it hurts. That's the way I am.
It's just
How are you doing, Functional?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I don't like this format. It had me really dejected, and like when you say hi, that's when that's go time for me. That's like my on switch.
Okay, well, I could do something to make you feel more comfortable. Is that better?
Ugh.
That's not the first time you ever said that.
Lie back and think of Canada. No, this is terrible. We don't like this. I think here we go. This is better. Everybody will be happy with that.
I like the horsey. See the horsey.
So I know everybody's been so busy. I've been incredibly busy with work. I mean, Prospero, I know you're busy with IRL stuff, and Functional's busy with IRL stuff. How are you doing, Skep?
I'm doing well. I stood on my feet for about 5 hours today, and at a birthday celebration for my old Alcoholics Anonymous group. It's so funny because people say, "Oh, we're so old. We're 54 years old," and I'm thinking to myself, I had a learner's permit when this group was formed.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was fun. Got to see a lot of old friends and catch up with people. And it's great day.
Yeah, sounds good. And Geodes is muted. I don't know if he might not
I'm
be
here.
able to come. Oh, you're here. How was your day?
It was busy. Everybody decided to call in on a Saturday, so it was
Good.
yeah.
I'm confused. Could you reset my password, please?
Basically, and I'm sitting there going, I hate you all. So
Yeah, nothing will make you hate human beings more than working in a customer service position.
Mm-hmm.
Especially help desk.
Move. You didn't ask me if the red switch was in the 0 position.
Exactly.
So you back in the day, we used to have some catchy ways of putting in error reports that it was actually the customer's fault or the user's fault. Are you acquainted with PEBCAC?
Oh yeah.
I know you are, but it's Geodes. He's our young representative here.
No, I'm not.
Okay, tell him, Skep.
It's a problem exists between keyboard and chair. PEBCAC. Or it might be an ID 10T error code.
Yes.
You just write it down, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
IT.
Some of back in the old day, we were pretty subversive. I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm just saying you're doing the exact same things a stupid person would do.
Yeah, it's like that T-shirt.
It's as though you were stupid.
It has made the appearance of. I'm sorry, I called you an idiot. I thought you already knew,
Mhm.
and it's. Thanks for reminding me, by the way, Harry, of that IT sketch that Saturday Night Live did.
Oh yeah, your company's computer guy.
Move.
Yeah, just-
Move.
That's exactly how I said move.
yeah.
Move.
Yeah, I should not do desktop support. There are just certain things that I'm not really good at. I did fill in doing that once for a customer. It was a long story, not interesting how it happened. But I had to do that just sort of as a sideline temporarily. And when they went to actually hire somebody to take that over, in the job rec they put in must have helpful, friendly attitude.
Well,
They get tired of me just going, move.
it's hard to have one though when somebody is calling the help desk to say, "I don't like these colors. I really prefer that really bright yellow, orange, and red one that I had before."
Yeah.
And it's like you're talking about a hot dog stand, right?
Mhm.
If you click on, I don't know how to do that. It's like
Oh.
get the girl an abacus.
Those poor
Yeah,
girls that used to have to work at Hot Dog on a Stick. Man, that was a bad outfit.
The ones I like are the people who call in and say, "Oh, I only log in my account like every 6 months,
Mhm.
so I don't know what the problem is." And it's just like, "Oh, yeah, you're one of the unique employees that barely interacts with our system, so therefore you have no idea what's happening. Excellent. I'm going to have to
Mhm.
instruct you every step of the way."
Well,
Well,
your password expired there, sir. It's just-
Yeah.
Well, it used to be that
happened.
those communications would actually come when you would log in. You would run the news command, or a thing called the message of the day would show up when you'd log in. And it's like, this is how your helpful IT people would let you know that things were going to happen. And,
Can I tell you my like 2-liner story about
Go ahead.
inspiring quote of the day? I was in charge of that at Colonial Savings before I went over to the dark side and started working for vendors. And this was in 1996. And we had, this new, local area network LAN thing that all the PCs were hooked together now. And they wanted an inspiring message every day. And I was the person chosen. I had my Bartlett's quotations on my desk, that I would just pull out some quotation and put it up. And I was relieved of this duty when I selected the quotation from Frank Zappa about him disagreeing with Stephen Hawking that hydrogen was the most abundant element in the universe. He disagreed and said, no, it's human stupidity, and it's even more durable than hydrogen.
Let's see. We've got people. Are we going to tell stories of our life in Oregon Trail? Well, Skep probably could. As long as we have to skip over that part about that long winter layover.
Red Cloud was pretty nice, actually. Didn't
Yeah.
you think, Skep?
Yeah.
I've actually only been to Oregon a few times. I enjoyed it while I was there. I don't feel the need to go back to Portland now. I think I just want to remember it the way it was back in the 90s.
Yes.
I think we'll all be happier that way.
You most definitely will be.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's launch into this. I mean, we've got a fair amount of show. It's not quite as crammed, so hopefully we'll be a little more relaxed tonight. Let's see.
Are we doing that school lunch thing today?
We are not doing it today.
No, we're not. Okay.
Sorry. People keep needing more time to put stuff together, and I can totally understand why. We want to do it right. We don't want to do it fast.
I actually thought we were doing it tonight, so I got all ready to go. But I can remain ready to go.
Okay. So we have this story, and I don't remember who submitted this, but basically These lovely three women have been charged with counts of grand theft and embezzlement in connection to an alleged scam to defraud the Los Angeles-based nonprofit People Assisting the Homeless of hundreds of thousands of dollars of public funds.
Stunning and brave.
They have been charged with 56 felonies, including grand theft and embezzlement, by submitting fraudulent referrals and assistance requests to PATH, that's the thing, for clients who were not homeless. These clients included their associates, friends, and families whose identities they manipulated through forged and falsified materials, such as leases and income documents, so that they appeared eligible for PATH
Wow.
assistance.
Wow. I mean, they're just racking up those felonies.
Yeah.
I bet
Why
they've
is
teetered
the man
into
a
federal.
person?
Yeah.
Oh, you think they made it to a federal charges?
Depending on whatever those some
If
of
we
those
went across state
documents.
lines.
No, this was all in LA, I think.
It would depend on
yeah.
documentation, though. If
Depends
any
where
of
the
it
money
was-
came from.
Yeah.
If the money crossed the state line, they are in violation of securities and monies embezzlement, which is a federal. There's all kinds of federal.
And
charges.
also, if they spoofed any federal documents.
Oh Lord, yes, that's right. Fraud.
Yeah, I was thinking the documents.
Yeah.
Let's see, we've got Valencia, Serena, and Latoya, I think here, or something, I can't tell.
It's just Latoy.
Latoy.
Latoi,
Yeah.
Le Toit.
Yeah.
which
So-
in French means the you. That's not important right now.
This just kind of makes me sad. The problem is every time you throw a bunch of money into the government and then you think you're going to help people with it, the amount of sticky fingers, both legal and illegal, that just siphon off so much of it so that it doesn't go to help anybody but basically bureaucrats and crooks. It's just
See
sad.
those double
Yeah.
chins? That's building back better. baby.
Well played.
They're being I
That's
mean,
what
they're being
BBB in this
enriched.
case stands for something
Yeah.
else.
I actually read this. I believe this is all California stuff because I read through the California Attorney General's statement about it, which is what I used to sort of synthesize all this information. We'll of course link this article as we
the
always
feds wouldn't
do.
touch this anyway. So
But I don't believe the feds
Yeah,
are
no
involved
kidding.
yet.
even if there were federal crimes involved, they wouldn't trust me.
They'll
Yeah,
try
well,
and
it had to
clear
be
them.
pretty bad before the state of California would go after these exciting entrepreneurs.
These white males.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Kim Kardashian will get them out of jail.
Ah,
Oh,
They'll
I
get
hope so.
justice.
Let them go live with her until she starts noticing things missing.
makes me sad. So Biden is busy trying to take things from 3.5 trillion down to something that maybe Joe Manchin might go for, maybe 2 trillion. Like 2 trillion is like, look, I'm just compromising. It's not 3.5 trillion, not crazy money. How about 2 trillion? And we'll just not pay for free community college for people because community college is not that damn expensive. I never understood this.
Now,
I mean, and there's
Can-
so much assistance out there for people already if they
Mhm.
can't pay for it. I don't get it. Go ahead, Skep.
Well, I just wanted to point out that the 2.5, even if it was $2.5 trillion that he was asking for, that's the value of our entire, all the money that we owe to China is about $2.5 trillion.
Yep.
This
Hmm.
amount of money that Biden is talking about is absolutely insane.
we should send all of China to community college.
Well, what if
It's-
it's been on
it's free.
infrastructure? Infrastructure, it's like it doesn't count if it's infrastructure.
That's right. It's magic then.
No,
Yeah.
This all kidding aside, this is desperately dangerous to our currency because what's going to happen is this business where he says inflation, inflationary effect is going to be transitory. No, it's not. It's going to be permanent. You permanently weaken the dollar, and that takes a very, very long time for that wound to heal. It's like it is literally like a wound, and the currency will take probably 10 years to heal from this single act alone. And you'll have 4 or 5% inflation as a result of this every year. That's assuming that he hasn't torn it so badly that the world really does begin to turn away en masse from the dollar as a reference currency. And the only thing that might stick that in place is the fact that both China and the European Union have an economic interest in the dollar remaining a reference, because they own a lot of dollars. They don't want to let it get that weak. So they will let this thing bleed slowly and heal slowly.
Yeah, he
But
might.
in the meantime, I'm sorry. Let me finish this. In the meantime, Americans across the board have an unplanned 5 or 6% tax for the next 10 years, and that 5%, it doesn't affect the rich. They don't care. They can lose 5% of the money; they wouldn't even notice. But 5% at the lower end, lower middle class, and lower class, that just eviscerates those people.
Mhm.
This is desperately serious.
It's eat or heat for them.
Eat or heat. It's exactly, you got it right. Yeah.
The Biden would probably trade Taiwan to China for a weakened dollar.
Well, he's not going to do anything about Taiwan.
Oh no, he isn't.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, God only knows. This is absolutely insane. I mean, the 1.5 trillion that Manchin has said he won't go for anything above that.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, this is nonsensical. What are states doing with some of that windfall that they got from all that free COVID money? Because they sure shit didn't spend it where they said they were spending it.
No, it just vanishes. You know how that works.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of infrastructure could be handled.
Look, about 9% of this money is actually going for infrastructure. It just makes me sick to hear it called the infrastructure bill.
Yeah, they won't do anything about it.
The rest of it is just redistribution.
Yeah, because it's the daycare is infrastructure, and oh god,
when I say infrastructure, I mean actual infrastructure.
Yeah, fixing a bridge that's going to fall down. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Let's go, Brandon.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go to the next article, because it turns out Brandon is a real person. He's right here. Look at him. Let's see.
This is disgusting.
From President Biden. I'm fighting every day to pass my Build Back Better agenda for folks like Brandon. His story is like so many I've heard across the country. Folks are just looking for a fighting chance to be treated with the dignity they deserve. And that's what my agenda is all about. And there he is talking to Brandon. And Brandon doesn't know how to wear his mask properly. So
he probably feels a kinship because, after all, his administration keeps wheeling him out in front of a bunch of people to talk. So, that's,
yeah.
I think Biden's probably just happy there's a train nearby. That's probably fun
choo
for him.
choo. Yeah,
reminds him of the train wreck his administration is.
It reminds him when he used to be.
What am I doing here?
Remember when he used to do the Good and Plenty ads, and he was Choo Choo Charlie? Yeah, I'm sure he's got a story about that too. Maybe he took the train to the border.
Oh wow, there's sound with this. Oh, we have to do this.
Brandon, could you do me a favor and tell the president what you've told me and so many other people about what Lynn means to you for your care?
Without her, I would not be able to have the.
Oh, this is just making me sad. I don't want to hear this now. I'm sorry, Brandon. I'm sorry that Joe is exploiting you. I promise I care about you 10 times more than Joe does. Joe doesn't even remember that you exist at this point.
What I find disgusting is which one of the dude bros working at the White House
exploiting this guy makes me sick. They're just exploiting this guy.
Because one of the dude bros came up with this idea, and they said, "I got a great idea. Let's go find ourselves."
And then he used the R word.
Yes, and probably the C word.
Yep.
And
radio controlled?
Yes, absolutely.
Radio controlled.
Let's get some Let's Go Brandons in the chat. Seriously.
Yeah.
Love Brandon.
You can't, and his name is Brandon too. This is awesome. This is just perfect. You can just hear the dude bro doing this is like Ben Rhodes level shit. If you know what I mean. It's just that kind of like Bruh,
kind of,
I got an idea.
yeah. I got it. I can't wait for Matt Taibbi's reaction to this.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I wanted to weep, and at the same time, I just wanted to smash stuff up because I would like a word with whomever cooked this idea up.
Yeah.
yeah. Somebody needs a serious nut kicking.
If they have any.
Annie. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, what am
say,
I talking about?
that ship sailed.
That ship scaled. Yeah. Doesn't do any good to kick them if they got the low T going on. Okay.
I wonder if it comes out in 2 months that he was actually a paid actor. The media will care.
No, that if he was with Kamala, there would be a 100% chance he was a paid actor.
Yeah.
You can
Even
see
the
it with your
children.
eyes, with your own eyes. It's like, shut up.
Good
Okay.
God.
All right, so things just keep getting dumber. This guy, Senator King, if you take the states that those 41 senators represent, add up all the population together, you get 24% of the American people. So the situation we're in now is that 24% of the American people have an effective veto.
No, Senator, that's not the way numbers work.
That's not the way
Jesus.
numbers work, and that's not the way history works, and you're stupid.
And it's not the
Yes.
it's not the way the Senate is supposed to work. And
The
if,
Republic.
if you look across the building you're in, genius, Senator, there's a chamber called the House of Representatives. They're the proportional chamber. You're not.
Well,
You disingenuous shitbag. I don't think he's this stupid. I think he is a disingenuous shitbag. And this is more of altering history and gaslighting the public about the intent and structure of government.
Does he hate Camel?
Angus needs to
I'm just
rewatch
Yeah.
Sora.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fucking moron.
we're all just laughing as it all circles the drain.
I know. Yeah.
So I know I've mentioned this a bunch of times, and Prospero is sort of my history go-to. And I've mentioned the whole issue of the urban-rural split as being a problem going back to Rome, and that the founders were sort of acquainted with this idea.
Hell, Tacitus was acquainted with it.
Do you want to talk about this a little bit, or do you want me to talk about it?
You go ahead and take the lead. I'll just
Okay.
snipe from the gallery.
Well, here's basically here's a little mini history lesson that I've put together, and I'm using this article kind of as the linchpin of it. The founders knew, unlike the idiots that are around today, that Rome, you don't want to fall like Rome did. You don't want to repeat that little exercise. So they looked at some of the things that caused problems. And in my opinion, a big part of that was the split between the urban and the rural people. Now,
Yes.
having the people in the rural areas be less than on board with what was going on in Rome, taxed heavily, sending all the food to Rome while they're doing bread and circuses, the people on the periphery were kind of left to their own devices.
Made the
And
Huns
when the-
look good to him.
Yeah, when the barbarians showed up, it's like, yeah, I'm getting screwed either way. I might actually be better off with the Huns or the Saracens or whoever it was that was showing up at any given moment. So why not, right? It's this divide. You don't want to have the people in the cities in like a pure democracy just shitting all over the people who raise your food. And as I think I've pointed out, you don't want to do it in a pub or a cafe, and you don't want to do it in a country because what happens when you piss off the people that make your food? Well, it could be as benign as them spitting on your burger, and it could be a lot worse, like them telling you to go sit and spin when you're hungry.
Yep.
There's reasons why we have a republic and not a direct democracy. This is actually a pretty well-written article, I think.
It is. It is. And it points out that Tacitus had commented on the split that existed in Nero's time. And that will tell you that it was apparent to wise people in Rome of that time that this kind of
I believe this is the section right here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Would somebody with a better voice than me read this, please? Because I think it's worth it.
I'll read it.
Yeah,
Please.
In the Senate, as they were now on the eve of a quinquennial contest, wishing to avert scandal, offered the emperor the victory in song, and added the crown of eloquence, that thus a veil might be thrown over a shameful exposure on the stage. Nero, however, repeatedly declared that he wanted neither favor nor the Senate's influence, as he was a match for his rivals, and was certain, in the conscientious opinion of the judges, to win the honor by merit. First, he recited a poem on stage. Then, at the importunate request of the rabble that he would make public property of all his accomplishments, these were their words. He entered the theater and conformed to all the laws of harp playing, not sitting down when tired, nor wiping off the perspiration with anything but the garment he wore, or letting himself be seen to spit or clear his nostrils. Last of all, on bended knee, he saluted the assembly with a motion of the hand, and awaited the verdict of the judges with pretended anxiety. And then the city populace, who were wont to encourage every gesture, even of actors, made the place ring with measured strains of elaborate applause. One would have thought that they were rejoicing, and perhaps they did rejoice in their indifference to the public disgrace. But then the historian notes, all, however, who were present from remote towns and still retained the Italy of strict morals and primitive ways, all too who had come on embassies or on private business from distant provinces where they had been unused to such wantonness, were unable to endure the spectacle or sustain the degrading fatigue which wearied their unpracticed hands, while they disturbed those who knew their part, and were often struck by soldiers stationed in the seats to see that not a moment of time passed with less vigorous applause or in the silence of indifference. In other words, red state Romans could not abide Nero's decadent ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these guys were, the founders of this country were incredibly well educated for their time.
Oh, they would have read Tacitus.
I have a question for Prospero, though.
Mm.
It's something that I notice in our country. Rome changed from a republic to an empire.
Yes.
And more power concentrated in the emperor himself, as opposed to the republican structures that had ruled the day for the previous 400 years.
Correct.
And in the next 350 years, it was an empire. I think I see some same things happening in the United States.
Oh, the power of the executive.
With the power of the executive growing and as it's drained away from legislative almost completely, and the judiciary becomes essentially a tool of the executive.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing the same thing, or do you think that's
no.
a relevant?
I think the
comparison?
power that came to the executive during World War II has just increased. All presidents have used executive orders and executive statements, but most of them were
going to pack the court.
Most of them were for clarification or just a lot of them were declaratory of what was actually important about this matter, to shift the focus toward that. They weren't DACA.
Mm-hmm.
And Roosevelt swung a lot of authority out of the White House. And then we had an abatement to some extent. Nixon was pretty imperial in his view of executive power, but
oh my God,
and then again, it kind of eased off, because that wasn't by any stretch Jerry Ford style, nor Jimmy Carter's, although Carter wielded power. Reagan wrote a lot of executive orders. Most of them were clarifications. and refocusing of agencies on tasks. Obama.
Reagan was a big government conservative.
Oh yeah, he was.
Changed my mind.
Oh, no, absolutely he was, and he was a spender.
Yep.
And shame on him, but that he was steeped in California politics, and that seemed really conservative to him.
You're welcome.
But the authority Obama used out of the executive was grossly imperial. Even Jonathan Turley was pretty disgusted by it. What we also have is
What about George W. Bush?
Yeah.
The guy who ran the debt out of control.
Yeah.
Obama, yes, did double it, but the first 12 billion, or I'm sorry, first 12 trillion came from George W. Bush.
Oh, the war and everything else. And the fact that we're letting the executive unilaterally declare war without congressional approval is and should be disturbing to everyone. I don't care who the
Is that not imperial to you?
Oh, it's absolutely imperial.
Yeah.
And it is treating the army as a plaything, which some of those Caesars were wont to do.
Well, they've got to understand White Ridge, though.
Yes, don't they though?
Jesus.
But I could see this happening. It's happening in the market. What Tacitus is describing under Nero is already happening in what we thought were the areas where the ideas were transacted. Facebook, Twitter, that, kind of that virtual marketplace of ideas.
Mm.
In the heavy-handedness of the bans that are done, the fact checks that are done, the COVID state, those are the soldiers smacking you for not applauding.
Oh, that's a good analogy. I agree with you. I think that's right on.
Cancel culture are the soldiers smacking you.
Yeah.
In the audience, applaud, pleb.
It's almost like the political officers of the old Soviet Union, circa say 1955 or so.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that there's something new that happens in terms of human behavior.
Well,
the internet's new, but in terms of human motivation and when power is involved and stuff, it's always the same.
Yeah, the enforcers are there, and I mean it takes on the look of a mob boss, very much so. It's just one quick note: the founders didn't disregard Pericles either, and the experiment in pure democracy that crumbled remarkably quickly because it is a tyranny of a majority.
Always does. Yeah.
Always does. But particularly they looked at the Roman system. And so we ended up with this amazing admixture where we use democratic methods to sustain a representational republic.
Yes. It's very well put too, by the way.
And the representational republic aspect is the critical aspect.
That's exactly right.
And to see disingenuity of the ilk we're seeing out of people demanding
that word in Scrabble.
It's a bitch to spell, isn't it? It's just, it's like, wait a minute, is it, and next thing you know, you're a disingenue. But I'm new at this game of lying publicly.
In some countries, that means we're married. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But this business of gaslighting people about the purpose of the structure of our government, and it's historical gaslighting, so it's particularly amusing. They're just Ida Bay Wells, Hannah Jones, bless your heart, has set a template for this kind of bullshit to just keep going on and on. Revisionist history that isn't even really revision; it's just made up out of whole cloth, and it's rather disgusting. But over and over and over again, since the end, toward the end of Trump, but very, very much since Biden assumed the throne, the calls for a representational Senate. Functional, you can tell people what a representational Senate does to the hinterlands.
Oh, what?
You have a representational Senate. Your upper house of your parliament is representational in that it is population based. It is not done like ours. And my point is, the hinterlands get ignored. Nebraska will mean nothing.
Yeah, you basically have two major city centers controlling the
Yes.
entire political landscape of the entire country.
Yes, absolutely. And
It's disgusting. It doesn't work.
But the other side to that, here's what they come back and tell you, is that the only thing that matters is people. Square footage doesn't matter.
bullshit.
Acres and acres of empty space don't matter. Okay, those areas that are occupied by people are where the ideas, desires, needs, ambitions, all things that make up a polity reside inside people. They don't reside inside, parcels of land. Therefore, allocating anything by other than number of people is fundamentally unfair. That's what
Yeah.
these people can't get past.
What is that, political Lysenkoism? Because,
Sort of.
yeah, because people are almost interchangeable. I hate to put it that way when it comes to political purpose.
It's kind of brutal but very honest characterization.
They're just heads to be counted.
Yeah.
They're far more interchangeable in that regard than crops are.
Well,
And all
you
those
mentioned
acres
crops.
and acres of empty land that they keep talking about, all those flyover states, as Harry said, grow their food.
Well, yeah, and that's really, I think where you were going with that was valuable. That what those empty areas represent are the resources that make a country important, valuable with respect to the rest of the world, and the temptation to over-respect headcount at the expense of where the interesting and important and valuable and good stuff in the country that is not people is a mistake, and therefore that's basically what a republic protects, right?
Yeah, and
Yep.
if you don't, and they don't understand. Well, Bloomberg demonstrated it perfectly in the debates. How hard?
How so?
How hard is it to be a farmer?
Oh yeah.
Stick a hole in the ground, put a seed in it, and
How easy is it to be that out of touch?
yeah.
I'll
it's
ask Bill Gates. He's the biggest farmer in America, isn't he?
He's trying to become one, which I think needs to cease.
Farmerville.
Yeah.
Oh well.
And
Let me push this thing to the. Oh, go ahead. You have some.
Well, Prospero hit something like really philosophically. That's why we have the delineation between the three levels of government. You have your local municipal government, you have your state or provincial government, you have your federal government, because they're supposed to be, again, in philosophy, it hasn't been so much in practice. They deal with very different things because, cultures are different, geography is different, population density is different. So what works in New York City isn't going to work in, rural Texas. And this mishmashing, the blurring of the lines, if you will, you can see how this slippery slope that both countries, yours and mine, are falling under, because the hand doesn't know what the foot is doing, sort of.
Yeah, and they've developed this insane notion that may have occupied the minds of some of the later emperors of Rome, where Judea is the same as Britannia, Britannia the same as Judea. And they're not at all.
Yeah.
Well, Britannia wasn't the same as Gaul. So it's callback.
And the local governors knew that, and they
Correct.
They knew how to govern without people going apeshit and revolting against the state,
Mhm.
which Rome didn't get.
Rome
That's
at
what you're
Rome
talking
at
about,
their height
decadence.
had
They
a
were just
right at their height. Rome had a pretty damned awesome system. Whether you like the fact that a single entity held that much land shouldn't play a role in it. It's not about. It's just it worked like a well planned, well-oiled machine.
Well managed.
Very well managed, and it did not cost them a lot. A lot of people think that it was the cost of maintaining these far-flung places
Oh no, they were
under
good.
administration. They got more than they spent by a long stretch. But when they began to only count the heads, and when they began to blur everything else out except in sheer numbers where they might be useful for legions or whatnot.
and they stopped listening to those local governors.
Oh, good God, yes.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
emperors just became dictatorial. That really was where they went off the rails.
Yep,
Yeah.
they did. And I know that if I'd seen a guy on elephants trying to cross the Alps, I think I would have frozen to death because I would have just stood there with my mouth agape for hours. But I might have said, cool idea, bro, have at it.
Yeah, with his pesky pachyderms.
Ha ha.
So shall we move on to the next thing?
Sure.
Sure. Well, we're going to talk about how dumb California is. I know that that's a real crowd pleaser. Okay.
Here they know how to party.
Yeah, so California is, as it says here in this fine Wall Street Journal article, scrambles to find electricity to offset plant closures. So they've got this great plan here in California to make everything super green. So what they're going to do is
Turn it all off.
the last remaining nuclear power plant in California is Diablo Canyon. And they want to shut it off by 2025. Now,
Because that makes sense.
is capable of operating, producing clean, reliable 2.25 gigawatts of power 99.99% of the time.
10%
When the
of the
wind
states
stops,
need.
10% of the state's needs. When the sun stops shining, at night, and the wind stops blowing, it just keeps on churning away with 2.25 gigawatts. So they're going to shut it off 40 years earlier than they need to. Now, one of the things that they did do was to sort of democratize the grid is they came up with these community power collectives. And a number of places have them. There's one for the Central Coast area. There's another one for Silicon Valley. And part of what these things do is they decide, well, we're not going to buy nuclear power. We're only going to buy solar power and to the extent that it's possible in wind and renewables. Right. I could argue that a breeder reactor makes nuclear renewable, but never mind that small inconvenient detail.
You'd be right too, by the way.
Yeah, by all means, let's just turn this stuff off. So, as Prospero said, Diablo Canyon does supply about 10% of California's power. Now, the drought has dramatically cut back on a lot of the power output because there are a bunch of dams along the Feather River system, which feeds into Lake Oroville, which feeds into the Sacramento River. And if the Feather River, North Fork and otherwise, don't have water flowing through them in great volume, you can't produce clean, cheap hydropower. This is where I'm very envious of our relatives to the north. You guys get most of your power from hydro. I think you even call your power company hydro in some places,
the wind power can pick up the slack, right, Harry?
Oh, except when it doesn't.
Yeah.
So the way they're making this work is they're trying to bring on a bunch of new power, 3.3 gigawatts by 2023. And then from 2023 to 2026, they want to bring 11.5 gigawatts of wind and solar on. Now, again, the obvious problem here is how do you make this work when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing? So you have to produce these enormous batteries. Let me see if we can, if technology is going to cooperate with us today.
But those batteries are all produced from compost, and they go directly back into the soil. That it's not like
totally green, man.
Well,
Good
here's
old
the
days.
here's the biggest one that they have, which is there used to be a gas power plant at Moss Landing, which is smack dab in the middle of the California coast. And so this is drone footage. These are huge Tesla megapacks that are going in. And so this used to be where a bunch of natural gas generators were. Originally, this was actually oil fired. So you can see the scale of what's going in, all these huge packs of Tesla batteries.
Seeing those stacks brings back the memories, Harry.
Yeah, these Tesla batteries, I mean, as awesome as it sort of is, they don't really solve the whole problem. You're going to need a lot more of them. So this Tesla Megapack is 182.5 megawatts of battery storage. That is a lot, right? So they're thinking that it's going to save $100 million over 20 years. And it's got the capacity here to dispatch 730 megawatt hours of energy to the electric grid at a maximum rate of 182.5 megawatts for up to 4 hours. So that's a lot, right? I mean, so you make solar during the day, you pump it into this thing. PG&E basically has an agreement with Tesla to increase the size of this thing, to a 6 hour battery supply or 1.1 gigawatt hours. But you'd need a lot more installations like this if you wanted to power the entire freaking state. If you get rid of all the nukes and all the other stuff, anytime things don't go right, you have to basically fire up these dirty turbine generators. You feed a bunch of crap into it, and it's essentially a jet engine strapped to the ground, tied to a generator.
Yeah, what's the carbon footprint on those?
It's bad. They actually require, for the ones that they're putting in right away, they actually had to get an exemption from the various air resources boards to be able to operate these things because they're anything but clean.
Mm-hmm.
Good God.
Yep, they got nuclear sitting right there.
Yeah.
And instead, they're going to dirty up the environment more with this shit.
Yeah, let's just turn it off.
I have a question about them saying that these co-ops don't want to buy power from, nuclear and so forth. Do they not understand that capacitance and the electricity, for all practical purposes, when it's provided to a grid like California, is fungible? You can't segregate the electrons and say these electrons aren't from nuclear. I mean, you can, and there's some circuit you can isolate circuits and things like that, and you can pretend that you're doing it, but people,
no, that's white supremacy.
Yeah, exactly.
I will not abide.
But people need a certain amount of electricity. That electricity is going to be provided for them one way or another. And if are these electric co-ops saying we would rather have rolling blackouts or brownouts than buy evil, than avail ourselves of the electrical production capacity of a nuclear plant?
They saw the China syndrome, man. Yes.
Well, in terms of the China plant, yes, they actually would. There's a strong, even though these people claim to be environmentalists and will go on and on about follow the science. Well, the science says nuclear is awesome.
Yeah.
And we should be building plants to burn up all the old nuclear waste that we have around so we don't have to store it for 10,000 years.
Breeder reactors, reactors and molten salt thorium reactors. Jesus.
Yeah. And as far as the storage goes, there's all kinds of cool things that you can do with storage. There's gravity-fed storage, where you essentially move a heavy thing up and turn electric energy into potential energy. There are also these storage modules. I don't have stuff on this for today, but there's storage modules that are essentially large flywheels that spin at very low friction that can be used to generate power after hours. There are a lot of innovative things that are coming along, but it's difficult. There are engineering problems to having a large, heavy spinning thing that you have to basically service bearings and deal with all kinds of crap. So unlike the nuclear plant, which just runs, trusty old nuclear plant that just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs.
Good old big heavy decaying uranium atoms. I just love them.
Yeah,
What about geothermal? Half your state's on fire. I
they have
mean,
geothermal.
the amount of people huffing their own farts in LA alone could
Yeah.
power the western seaboard. So
Yeah, how about we just put a hat on every one of those propeller hats on everybody and tie it to a little generator, and you can use it to charge
Get-
your iPhone. It'll be
Give
great.
well, if you need like a methane source, have all the homeless people go to one specific location, just put a giant dome over it, and just have it just get the methane that way. Just pump it out, basically.
Well, actually, as an
or
ass-
one Stacey Abrams.
Problem is burning methane produces the kind of gases, the water vapor and carbon dioxide that you don't want. That's the amazing thing about nuclear. You produce no greenhouse gases.
we're going to move forward here, but before we do, no, it's okay. Before we do, just to answer your question, I'm going to tangent a little bit. This is the drone footage. You see this body of water right here? That's actually called Elkhorn Slough. And there are bodies of water like this all over places that are on the coast. And what you can do is you can capture the tide. As the tide goes in, the tide goes out.
Yes, you can.
There is so much energy that's tied up in tidal flows and other things that, there's all kinds of alternative
It's
energy.
a gravity battery.
They were studying tidal
It's a lunar
flow.
battery.
It's a lunar battery.
Tidal flow energy I know is being studied in Southeast Asia over a decade ago, and because it's like big giant paddles catching the movement.
Yep.
And transferring, so you're transferring kinetic into again, and it's
and storing it as potential energy. Exactly.
Yeah,
it's all good. I mean, we're on board with. I'm fine with clean energy. I like clean energy just fine where it's appropriate and will make sense without huge taxpayer subsidies. If you have to subsidize it, that's kind of a sign that maybe it isn't the best thing to go on.
A quick fearless prediction.
Yeah.
200 years from now, people will have pictures of the windmills and they will laugh at the silly things that we did to try and get energy.
Yes.
I think I need to get see if Serenity will make me a nice picture of Gavin Newsom as Don Quixote or something. I think it'd be totally appropriate. All right. So let's see. So something a little dry, but this will be relatively painless and over soon, everybody, I promise. A couple things happened this week. Some new semiconductors hit, which are going to be used in people's fine laptops, and in this case, desktops. So Intel finally released their new thing. They're desperately trying to catch up with AMD. AMD has been just eating their lunch in terms of sales increasing, profits. They've just been having a really rough time of it. And it's not that there aren't really, really smart people at Intel and they don't have really good products. I'm an Intel shareholder, so this gives you an idea of how I feel about Intel. But what they're effectively doing here with this this new chip is they're making chips that are a lot more like the ones that go in your cell phone. So your cell phone, obviously, you only have limited amount of battery power. So what you typically get is a processor that has, it's called a big little architecture. And so you get some cores that do performance stuff, and then you get other cores that are actually optimized for energy efficiency. And when you're just walking around with your phone not doing anything, it just uses those ones that just sip power. But when you put some demand on your phone to like play games or, do something where you're asking the phone to do some serious work, it switches over to the high power ones. So they're taking this big little type architecture and applying it to desktops and laptops in the Intel architecture. So it actually makes your these systems a lot more energy efficient, which cuts down on your power bill, your air conditioning bill, and everything else. It's really good that Intel is making these advances. I am all in favor of this sort of thing. And in addition to this, the new systems that are going to use these CPUs are going to have much faster connectivity on all their external ports. They're going to have like Thunderbolt 4, PCIe Express 5.0 for the card bus, and just a lot of great things. I don't know if there's any questions about this.
What's the difference in data transfer rate between USB and Thunderbolt 4?
Well, it depends on which version of USB. I think
like
USB
3.2.
I think you can go up to 20 gigabits per second on some of those, and Thunderbolt 4 can go up to, it can do either 40 Well, 3 can do 40. I think 4 can do 80 or more. It's actually a pretty
Really
substantial jump.
significant. Yeah.
It is,
Interesting.
but
Because if you want to put a big storage device on, Thunderbolt, you could really do a backup solution for a much larger system.
well, I've got a system here with 14 terabyte drives in it, and it can be expanded up to 8, and it's Thunderbolt 3, and it's actually pretty sweet. I never throw anything away ever.
That's nice.
Never.
That's nice. I actually have a Thunderbolt 4 port on this laptop.
Yes, you do. That's why I keep saying nice things about your laptop. It's
Well,
a good
thank
thing. Actually, Intel embracing Thunderbolt is one of the things that I really heartily approve of. Now,
smart.
remember a few years ago, Apple started just removing ports from laptops and making them suck.
Yes.
And maybe you remember this video.
And my dongle.
Now, why am I not getting sound? Here we go.
Cocinero, Risita, ¿qué? Ve por la paellera. Venga, que las 2 de la tarde ya están aquí. Miren, bañador. En las chanclas. Todo despeinado porque no me dio tiempo nada ponerme las chanclas y el bañador. Voy a la playa, había subido la marea.
I see this, it makes me die.
This is so funny.
Okay, so that was 2016. God, I love this so much. Well, it's as if Apple finally figured out that this was a bad idea, and finally has decided that instead they're going to make laptops with things that people want.
Did it have something to do with Apple engineers being found in dark alleys with dongles rammed up their asses? Because yeah, it's just like fuck you and your dongles.
Yeah,
it is horrible. Dongle is a terrible word anyway.
So what they've done is they've come out with some brand new laptops which have massively beefed up versions of the Apple Silicon that was released in the 13-inch MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air. So they've got like 20 hours of battery life and they don't heat up, and they're awesome. Serenity has one, Jenna has one, everybody I know has one, has been pretty tickled with the one. But they didn't have anything for professionals. So they've decided that unlike what they did over the last 5 years where they kept removing ports, it's like, oh, do you like your MagSafe power? No, screw you, you don't get that. We're going to take it away. How about your headphone jack? No, you don't get one of those either. We're just going to keep taking things away until you scream for mercy. And they must have had some sort of come to Jesus moment. And they decided, no, we actually will make a laptop that's thicker and heavier for pros to use. It's okay if the laptop becomes thicker if we can put the freaking ports back on and make it not suck.
Yes, it wasn't that uncomfortably thick with the ports in it. I mean, my old Gen 1 had the ports, and it was not. It just so what?
Do you think that the reason that they went that way was in pursuit of the old Steve Jobsian ideal of beauty and functionality, and the desire for sleekness and trimness and elegance just ruled the day a little bit too much at the expense of it really cut into the meat of functionality?
Well, Steve Jobs, to his credit, they run Apple a little differently than a lot of other companies. At least when Steve was in charge, he's famously quoted as saying, "We don't have committees at Apple. We don't design things by committee. We have a person who's in charge of a part of something. And we trust that person and the people who work for them to get it done. We don't look over each other's shoulders. We just hunker down and do our job." And then Steve famously would just fire people who didn't get shit done. There was
in elevators sometimes.
Yeah. I Yeah, Steve was merciless about firing people. He was very, very good at it. But if you did your job, like was it Johnny Ivy, then you were in a pretty good place working at Apple. But they've decided that they want to actually sell things, so they came up with these new professional things. So they've, instead of having 8 cores, 4 efficiency and 4 power, they now have 10 cores, 8 power and 2 efficiency. And they've put in fairly massive GPU units with these things and increased the amount of memory and the AI capabilities. These things are kind of slightly terrifying. This is on a 5 nanometer process instead of Intel's current 14 nanometer process. Or AMD's
how many
7
nanometers? 5?
5.
5?
Yep.
Isn't 4 the physical limit?
I'm not entirely sure. And we start using cosmic rays at one point to start etching this stuff. But they've got 5 nanometer process, so they have actually crammed on the biggest one of these chips 57 billion transistors on a single chip.
God
Everything
almighty.
is on one big honking chip. All your memory, all your I/O, all
Realize
of
how efficient
all of
that
it.
is, though?
It's insanely efficient because this thing, using 30 watts of power for the CPU and 60 for the GPU, can outperform just about any desktop except a very, very high-end desktop with a discrete GPU. You need a 3080 Ti or a 3090 GTX to have more power than you do in this laptop. A freaking laptop. This is like a huge leap in performance.
Good for them.
Yeah, but how much is it going to cost?
Funny that you would ask. It's about 3,000-ish to get one of these. In theory, you could get one of these for with one of the smaller chips for around 2,000. But for a 16-inch, fully chromed with 8 terabytes of storage and the whole deal, you're looking upwards of $5,000. But you can get one reasonably configured for 3,000 or more. Now, if you're not a professional and you're just an Apple fanboy and you'll just buy anything with a freaking Apple logo on it, well, I appreciate that because I'm also an Apple shareholder.
Yeah.
So please, by all means, Apple fanboys, buy every Apple thing there is. But it's kind of an exciting time to be alive when you're suddenly starting to see these kinds of machines coming along.
And you see the costs come down over time, like they have with every other major innovative thing. And the good thing is for those of us who just would like a super duper reliable one that can do whatever whiz bangy thing comes along for just the user loser community down the road, these will be awesome. And the business people will have moved on to the new edition with the $6,000 one with the absolutely invisible chip with all the transistors.
Yeah, there's a ton.
All the transistors belong to us.
Yeah,
chip.
There's a ton more information that I know off the top of my head, and there's even more online. I'm not going to bore everybody with the whole recitation, but it's kind of cool because it's great to see Intel coming out with new products that don't suck, and it's great to see Apple coming out with products that actually address the users that they're designed for. And honestly, if you are a professional and you're rendering 8K video and you use this to make money, this is a no-brainer.
Oh,
$3,000, $5,000 for somebody who's doing high-res video editing.
Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, this is nothing. This is a no-brainer for a whole large group of people. Other people, you're probably kind of throwing your money away. They do have an M1 Pro, which is not the same as the M1 Max, which is a lot more reasonably priced. Whatever you want, that's another thing that's kind of weird is Apple's offering people a hell of a lot of choices. Usually it's very limited in terms of what you get, but now it's no, you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of what you want and that you can pay accordingly. And if you don't want an Apple, by all means, buy exactly the same thing Skep just bought because I actually really like your new laptop.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you like it. I actually think that Apple is, I don't want to go down the tangent rabbit hole, but I think Apple is making a sea change in the way that it's marketing. You pointed out the fact that their basket of goods basically that they're offering the market has expanded. It really has. And that's a little bit different for Apple.
Totally different posture for them. They kind of did the one thing great. And now to see them with the array of offerings that they have,
Yep. They want to have
expand their
something for
footprint in the
everybody.
marketplace. Yeah.
They want to sell to everybody. They think Mr. Bezos is a smart guy.
Yeah.
Let's sell everything to everybody. And that's now doable. It didn't used to be doable because
And they've waited though to try to do that until the technology caught up with them being able to do it.
That's exactly
top
right.
tier. And that is a very Apple thing to do, where Microsoft is like, hey, here's an idea. Let's slap it in and throw it out there in the universe. And
It's the difference between an innovator in business policy. They call it the difference between an innovator and a prospector. Microsoft is an innovator. Apple is a prospector.
Yes.
They come through and pick through the bodies of the dead innovators because most innovators die in the innovation phase. Microsoft doesn't because it's just got.
They raid the bodies before they're dead. Microsoft.
Right, exactly. And Apple comes in, loots the bodies, and figures out the mistakes that they made, and they don't mind being second or third to market with a concept because by the time they've gotten their mitts on it, it's so much better. It's almost different.
And they're commanding enough market share now that they matter enough to push companies like Intel to get better.
What is their market share in business now? I know they're commanding in education, but have they made that much progress in business? And I really don't know the answer to this.
I would think in small business they might have made quite a lot of progress because.
Are they doing point of sale stuff, Harry?
Oh, yes. You can do all kinds of point of sale stuff, and you can go through for small businesses actually working with things like Stripe. It's incredibly easy to use even an iPad and just go to the farmer's market, hand somebody your credit card. There's a little card reader that plugs into the lightning thing.
Right.
I see a lot of Apple tablets at those kinds of mobile merchant.
Yeah. And I'm not an Apple fanboy necessarily. I mean, all computers suck in my opinion. If you want to have a real conversation with me about why it sucks, we can do that some other time. Honestly, people, if you've got questions about this stuff, DM me and hit me up on Discord. I really, if I can help you, quickly, easily.
Complaining about how much computers suck is something he likes to do.
Yeah, I actually am perfectly happy talking about why things suck. I can tell you why Ubuntu sucks, Windows sucks, Mac iOS sucks, everything sucks. But it's the point
CPM. CPM is
but
great.
Relative to what use case, because Windows for like gaming, awesome. Awesome. If you want to play games on your PC, you're dumb not to get Windows. Windows is awesome for that.
Yeah.
You could always try running it through Wine, but no promises that.
No. All right, moving on. So
right.
I don't understand this. I do sort of understand it. Facebook is planning to rebrand the company with a new name.
I think they should be named Zucky McZuckface.
Zucky McZuckface?
Or Zuckerbook?
Or...
I like Faceberg.
I think Head Desk would be good.
Well, they want to build the metaverse.
Or how about
however you want to spell.
I think they should call themselves Safetyware.
or I got it, Stasi book. It has a certain ring.
Yeah.
Look at that pic.
Can I talk about why Unix sucks? Well, if we're talking Linux, I'll tell you why that sucks. But if we're talking Unix, we're getting close to my sacred cows. No, I can tell you why Unix sucks.
Linux sucks.
Later.
Too many filthy pleb hands on it.
Yes. So anyway, this Facebook thing. So I was looking at it. Now their brand is kind of tainted, right? Because of the recent outages.
So horrible.
So they're having the same kind of problem that AIG had back in 2008. So I think a little bit of rebranding might not be the worst idea, even though they do have a lot of name recognition. But since they actually own a whole bunch of other things now, because they've gobbled up all these other companies.
Instagram and
Right. What it looks like they're going to do is create some sort of umbrella company and then pull all of these businesses under there. And I think that it's just designed to make it look less, to the regulators, less like it needs to be broken up.
They could call it face wall.
Well, because look, we have all these little separate companies, and there's like a
I got
holding
that.
thing.
Thank you, Skep.
But you've got all these separate companies, so we don't need to break it up. Look, we're already broken up under this thing, kind of like Alphabet. So they want to basically do what Google did and have their version of Alphabet.
Yeah.
I'm going with face wall from now
You're going
on.
with Facewall?
I
I
like
think
that.
Friend Face, the from the
Yeah,
IT
no,
crowd.
no, face wall, please.
Facewall.
Just
Oh
with-
yes.
without
Face
the without
face
the
wall.
without the please. Face
Yeah.
wall.
Comrade book.
All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to say anything else about Zuck and his effort?
Yes, it won't
Go.
work. It will
Oh,
not
okay.
work because it's simply too easy to do a business analysis on them and fit whatever they try and do. You cannot move this boat around the iceberg that is the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1893. You just can't do it. They are going to have to be legally addressed in the antitrust provisions of, it won't be the Clayton Act, it'll be the big boy, it'll be the Sherman Act. Yeah. And they I don't know if they'll be broken up, reorganized, or even partially government regulated, but there will be, they have become so much the public square that some special kind of deal will happen to them legally, and the people who are going to be watching that, Twitter is a tiny fraction of the size of Facebook, both in terms of reach and in actual market size and market coverage, but the same treatment will be applied to them on the basis that they are essentially owners of the public street, of the public space, and there is a huge First Amendment problem with these guys acting as publishers, I mean, as editors rather than publishers.
Yeah, I I agree. I mean, Section 230 is kind of a complicated thing.
It is.
I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to refer to it. But
Yeah.
I do think that we have a situation where we have these incredibly large companies, and there's more than just sort of a wink and the nod with the people who in the federal government. It really feels like these are like their favored sons.
Coordinated.
Some of these companies.
Yes.
And I don't think having an NGO at the behest of the government, whether it's official or not, act in a way that's counter to the Constitution, I don't see how it works.
Particularly since they have so much of the media sewn up.
Yeah. Yeah, back to the Sherman Antitrust Act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway, it is the suck. Speaking of things that suck, Jen Psaki made some rather tone-deaf comments. Psaki cracks joke in response to supply chain crisis question, the tragedy of the treadmill that's delayed. She likes to make light of the fact that we have a massive Charlie Foxtrot going off off the host of California. So she was basically asked on Tuesday whether Biden should have more quickly addressed bottlenecks in the supply chain. Jen Psaki appeared to joke that the problem was limited to only some narrowly used goods. The tragedy of the treadmill that's delayed, Psaki quipped in response to a question about Americans unable to have dishwashers, furniture, or treadmills delivered on time, not to mention all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's
Including
essentially
food.
saying that, check your privilege. This is translates to check your privilege.
Right.
Right?
She might as well have said, the next thing out of her mouth could have been, I'm sure a lot of disenfranchised minority people are really sweating the lateness of the delivery of their Pelotons.
Well, I already told you the story that I bought a bunch of tea, and the person I bought it from, I bought the last of her merchandise.
Yeah.
She has no product to sell at this point.
Pisaki doesn't care about your tea. In fact, she
Yeah.
doesn't care about anything at all.
They don't care about the middlemen, and there are a lot of brokers. There are a lot of people that get goods and move goods in this country. Amazon is one of them. There are a lot of smaller Amazons, and not even some of them are acting as part of Amazon's supply chain. You see that all the time when you go on Amazon, that the order is going to be fulfilled by.
Yeah.
So there's this, I think I said this Tuesday. This can't be making Amazon happy. This backup in the supply chain, because it will affect them, and what affects Amazon will affect the people in the White House. They'll know about it.
I thought I'd do something novel and actually try to get some numbers, because Pisaki is really short on numbers here.
Yeah.
Now, so I went out and tried to find. Now, this doesn't tell me the volume of the packages. I'm just looking at dollar values in terms of U.S. imports. So hopefully this data is correct. If this data is correct, if you look at the 5-year graph of where things were, you can see that imports were increasing through 2019. Everything was going pretty well. Then COVID hit, and it kind of fell off a cliff.
Let's look at the scale over here.
Yes, but then I thought, well, how to lie with statistics? If you basically take 260,000 units as being the pre-COVID value, right? Or
Right.
Pre-COVID, pre-Biden value, we see it going up to around 280,000 and climbing a little bit. This is fairly recent sort of stuff as of August, right? Now, just sort of doing the math, that works out to about a 7.6% increase, which is nowhere close to the 20 or 30% that they're talking about.
I'm doing just a first generation regression, eyeball regression.
Yep.
That curve, if you drop out the big drop and fit the curve to the 2021 data points where it goes back up, that looks pretty continuous. Looks like a straight continuous function.
Well,
almost maybe
it's
a
not,
slight
but it's
depression.
But this is not enough in my mind that this is a percentage-wise. Yeah, it's an increase, but I don't think in any way, shape, or form this explains everything that's going on. They want us to believe that it's just, things are so fantastic that everybody's buying treadmills, they're buying treadmills for their friends, everything is great, you've got so much money, and yada, 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 wank, wank, wank.
Not with inflation already having hit.
Yeah.
Common sense tells you that people are already having to pay twice as much for gas.
Yeah, this is actually really complicated, guys. Let me just tell you, you've got some. There are several things that are contributing to the right side of that graph, and not all of them are healthy. One of the things is the lightness, the airiness of our new devalued dollar.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of the right side of that graph. That's why that's up that high. After what had happened, I would expect in a normal economy that was unaffected by inflation, the right side of that graph would have recovered probably. This is really a swag, but probably less than half of what it says it's recovered. I really think there is a lot of inflated value.
Yep.
As a result of devalued dollars in the late data points in that graph.
Yep. If you look at the rate of increase in terms of the dollars being spent, and you compare it to what we think the real inflation rate might be, those are scarily similar numbers. Now, there is a bit of change in terms of the composition of what this represents. So in terms of this high in August that we had, the things that were on the increase were pharmaceutical preparations, Kel Surprise again, toys, games, organic chemicals, transport, travel. In contrast, passenger car sales fell. So you see a lot of people buying, PPE and other things that they need. The buying habits, of course, changed in terms of what people need, because you shook up the way society functions. All these people staying home, they need stuff, right? There's things that they were getting at work, so there's some kinds of spending. A certain amount of difference doesn't really surprise me. But I'm afraid Skep's probably right about this. So I brought up another article because I wanted to see, okay, so if we acknowledge that Jen Psaki is a lying...
sack of shit.
Yeah.
The word you're looking for.
Dirtbag weasel, yeah.
I'm trying really hard to be nice. I don't want to actually end up
I'll be
disliking her
mean
on a
for
personal
you.
level, but it's tough.
No, I'll dislike her for you then, Harry.
So
Yeah,
I found
We've got two
this
professionals
article here from Popular Science, which I thought did a pretty good job of breaking things down. The tilde here is it's COVID. That's the reason why these things are here. So this is actually not a bad article. It says for the past years, beachgoers, I don't care about that, sorry. The cause of the backup, say port officials, is strictly enforced COVID restrictions at the port, including those in Asia, as well as unprecedented demand for goods from China, South Korea, and other Asian exporting countries. Yeah, it's COVID.
No.
Why we're trying to pretend that it's just greedy, well-off, affluent first worlders that are just spending out of control, that's just bullshit. And they have so many ships anchored off the coast of California right now because they have no room in the port that they are running out of places for them to anchor. There's only so many places where the water is shallow enough to drop anchor for these things.
That's exactly right.
So they've been telling some of these ships, oh, well, just float. Just float.
Also,
it'll be fine.
ships are dirty. Ships are dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave a ship in one place for a long time, it makes the water around the ship dirty. If you have a whole bunch of ships in one concentrated area, they can just absolutely have a terrible effect on the local ecosystem.
Yeah, that's turned into a big floating porta potty out there.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. Yeah, that's right.
This is actually a really interesting article from Popular Science. The implementation of COVID restrictions caused many of the problems at the ports. For example, officials noted that every shift change for port workers requires new protocols, including the cleaning of crane compartments and equipment, daily health screenings for staff, and other inefficiencies caused by social distancing measures. And the number of backed up ships has been unrelenting. As of September 15th, a record 88 ships were sitting on the horizon, forming a line of vessels stretched south over 40 miles from the entrance of the port of Los Angeles all the way down to Dana Point. And you go past Dana Point, you can't anchor. That's the problem.
Here's another problem, guys, is that sooner or later, these ships are not run by tightly trained crews like United States Navy ships are. Sooner or later, somebody's going to run one of these ships into another, and somebody's going to hit a tanker or something, and it's not going to be funny anymore.
Yeah. Well, because some of them are just drifting because we don't have enough places for you to... Now, at last I checked, I think the number is 108. I believe there are 108 ships that can't... There's no room to bring them into port.
Yeah.
They steam them up and let the current take them back down. They do dead reckoning tracing, hoping that they don't hit another ship. That's great.
Yeah, well, let's just pile on. Go ahead, Prospero, and then I'm going to bring up
move them down through the canal and bring them around to Houston and Jacksonville.
Yeah, Florida will take them.
And
the joggers.
Houston will take them. And if Houston begins to look a little backed up, let Jacksonville take them. And after Jacksonville, hey, Mr. Northam, you might want to wave your hand in the air. And you've got Charleston. You've got ports on the East Coast that are not all hit by this. It's the heavy. I would imagine the ones in the Northeast.
Well, DeSantis already made a statement.
Yeah.
He said, "Come on in. We will happily take your
stuff." I
stuff."
know, which is and some ships have begun to move around through the canal because they're burning fuel, they're burning time, they're burning the goodwill of their crew. Burning daylight.
Brenda says that the Houston guys are making money hand over fist.
Good.
Yeah.
Just send in BLM. All that cargo will disappear overnight. Go back home.
It's actually, I like your solutions oriented.
There is a problem with that scuba thing, though. Just a small one.
Yeah,
they're joggers, not swimmers.
Yeah.
So to add more fuel to the fire here, so California ports, in a review of 351 container ports around the globe by the World Bank and some research outfit. Los Angeles was ranked 328 behind Tanzania's Dar es Salaam and Alaska's Dutch Harbor. The adjacent port of Long Beach came in even lower at 333 behind Turkey's Nemrut Bay and Kenya's Mombasa. The group said in their inaugural Container Port Performance Index published in May, critics cite that state regulations requiring the use of union truck drivers and requiring a use of new rigs only with more modern emission controls is also contributing to the problem. California has a bunch of really cool rules that they've decided to enact. Now, this is the thing that's going on social media. So PolitiFact has decided to add value to the discussion with one of their fact checks.
Fuckers.
Mostly false. California's shipping backlog is in part caused by California's truck ban, which says all trucks must be 2011 or newer, and a law called AB5, which prohibits owner-operators. So PolitiFact says that this is false, which means it's probably true.
True.
Yeah.
Which prohibits owner-operators.
Yep, the unions.
It prohibits entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You work in
Because
the
that
state
makes
or you
sense.
don't work, buddy.
Right.
Make your own decisions. We'll put the links in the chat because
Dare
that's
you
just the
work
way
for
we roll.
yourself.
That's the way we roll around here at Minions.
Excuse me.
So let's see.
Can't they just
Now-
like build some new ports in like Oregon, or is that like another liberal?
Well,
hellhole?
geography is a part of this.
Yeah.
Hellhole.
Because a port has to have certain natural features to be a port. You can't
And
just
I don't care.
Oregon
We can
has
build it.
one place like that.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's called Portland.
Yeah.
Which also
Yeah.
connects to a mighty river, which
Yeah.
is part of why
That's
it's such a
what-
good
That's
port.
called
actually-
Columbia.
But that's why Portland is
Where it is.
that's why it's the port in Oregon, is because
Columbia.
of the geography of the Columbia River coming in. They actually can have some deep water mooring. The rest of the coast is rocky, shoaly.
Cliffy.
You'd have to, you would spend trillions of dollars making a port.
And Seattle's fucked. So
Seattle actually is some of the best natural porting in the world, but they won't let it be developed. You could do stuff on the islands. You could have, ports out the
my God,
wazoo.
yeah.
But,
you've got places
they
called
won't
port
permit
all over those islands, but
Right, exactly right.
They don't. No. That's for the original people's salmon fishers. That's why that's there.
That's
Yeah.
actually true. They actually do restrict a lot of that stuff
Mhm.
because of the First Peoples, as they like to call them.
Yes.
That's what kind of worries me about Canada, though, is right now we don't have these same problems because British Columbia, the only province that is on the West Coast, is okay. It's our California light, but like everything Canadian, it's really light compared to what goes on in the States. I do worry that if they do enact some of these similar policies, which they want to do with these stupid policies, that's why they're California North. That it would cause the same problems to us, even though we can look down south and be like, no, that fucked everything up. Let's not do that. They'll pass it anyway.
You need to elect a prime minister who says, when it comes to this native stuff, I'm having none of it.
And also,
What I did there? See how I did that?
Good night, folks.
And functional. One other thing, your population can't rival ours.
No.
And the where things move after they get to the board, it's just it's pretty.
It's a lot more
extraordinary.
vertically spread out. Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, we have one corridor that services 90% of the population. So, I mean, we don't have that same problem. But I'm saying if the entry ports start to get clogged up because of stupid freaking controlling measures that for the most part are unnecessary, then we're going to follow suit. But for right now, our imports from Asia are fine. It's the eastern side of things which are kind of getting gunked up from Europe because of those same problems of strict COVID regulations.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a lot of suspect wheelings and dealings with places like China with our federal government. So they're just kind of like just waving in the trucks. Restrictions? What restrictions? Just waving in the trucks. But on the East Coast, it's quite different because, you know, things coming in from Europe, for some reason, we're a little bit more tight with our regulations and restrictions and these types of COVID checks and whatnot.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Never let a crisis go to waste.
Crisis-tunity.
Yeah, you've just Rahm Emanuel's first law of politics.
Did you say crisis-tunity?
Crisis-tunity.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's see. Geodes, are you with us still, Geodes? Or did you have to
I'm here. I'm just.
So did you send me this this thing here about the ranchers?
Yeah, a little bit. So effectively, I mean, it's kind of more or less what the title says, but a bunch of ranchers have been getting screwed out of the price marketing in terms of selling their meat really cheap, only to see it, you know, in stores after it's been processed at really high prices, and they're kind of getting tired of it because they're not making any money. So a bunch of them have like gone together, and I think they saved like $3 million in total in this one area to build a meat processing plant for all of them to use. And I think this is in I forget which state this is in. It was in Iowa. I can't remember, but it says in the article.
Iowa. Des Moines. No, I'm all in favor of this. This
Yes.
is fine because a lot of times in agriculture, when you only have one buyer, they can really kind of screw you over. It's like, oh, you want to sell your grain, you have to sell it to us, and this is what we're willing to pay.
Yeah, if everything's going through Swift and Company, so to speak, over in Omaha, set up a little competition.
Yeah,
we don't have it.
They'll make more money. The consumers who I missed that. What? Bring it back.
It's right here.
Don't eat me, Elwin.
Tasty cow. Shut up and get in the truck.
But
this
you know,
this is
these
perfect.
farmers, they're going to make more money, and the consumers who buy these products are going to pay less, and it's going to force the big companies that were screwing these people to either adapt or die. I like
this
that.
is how it works. This is how it works, dude. If there are no barriers to entry and you jack up prices high enough and you get too greedy, you're basically not adding enough value to justify, you know, the way you're operating. Somebody will come in and they will replace you.
Yeah.
Before some congressman from Nebraska starts waving a copy of a particular book written in the early 20th century around and screaming.
Muckraker.
It's screaming. Yes, absolutely. Screaming things about unsafe meat.
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was gonna say the big thing that I've been slightly side note on this, but kind of similar. The big thing though is that a lot of these companies are inflating it. It's an artificial inflation, but it's partially due to some of the stuff that I think is happening with the UN, if I recall, based off of some of the stuff I've been seeing. I'll try and see if I can find some of the information on that, but.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of blaming the UN, but if you have a link, we can add it to the show notes later.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Kind of the reverse. Go
ahead, Skep.
I think one of the things they might end up being faced with is the people who are building this, I guess it's essentially a big rendering plant, processing plant, they're going to be sued or gone after legally, saying that they're fixing the price. They're trying to illegally influence the price. I know that sounds insane, almost Kafkaesque, but that's how the unions will approach this. They'll say this is the bosses trying to fix the price, because that's the way they look at it.
Well, I think it also has to do with I understand where you're coming from, but I think it also has to do with, again, circling back to COVID, because these producers that they are currently using can't fully staff their warehouses or their processing facilities, and so they just can't meet the volume. Would that play some sort of role into the legality of it? Because they could turn around and say, well, they're not meeting their end of our requirements. So
Well,
that's to you. Like
one of the weird things about meat packers, and you can go all the way back to what I was referencing, which was Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, is the fix was in back then. There was already a plan afoot for the major meat packing producers to agree to certain governmental scrutiny rules in order to have a corner in the market. It's how a lot of this stuff is done, these backroom deals. I mean, the swamp's been around for a long time, and it's why they're so good at what they do, fucking the little guy. There are a lot of ways that these guys can have their lives made unhappy. The USDA could get shitty with them, and will. OSHA will get shitty with them. It'll depend on who's complaining and who's lining whose pockets.
Of course, yeah.
I'm not kidding. Congress will get involved if there's money being slung around by the major meat producers. But it's disgusting. On the hoof, they're getting jack squat. And in the grocery stores, we're all grabbing our ankles.
I have an analogy for you. Well, is it an analogy? I don't know if analogy is the right word, but back in the day, in the long ago, when people would buy things like records and CDs, you would go to a building, a brick and mortar place, and you would buy a CD and you would give them like, $12, $15, $17, whatever it was. And of that, the performer would get a very small cut. I remember looking at this distribution of these things back in the day. And most of the profit actually went to the distributor.
Yes.
So the person who basically collects all these things, gets them made, and then distributes them to the store. That's where the big part of the profit was, or profit and the cost.
Which is why some of the big studio producers had their distribution companies.
Right.
And those are the people that you see usually doing the copyright striking.
Right. And then technology came along and leveled everything out. It made the distributor cease to exist, in a lot of meaningful ways. Now, with this meat business, you absolutely can say, okay, I'll set up my own abattoir and I'll, hire some meat packers and we'll do all this stuff. And the USDA can come in and inspect it. But in terms of large volume, small volume meat producers, especially ones who have like a specialty product, like certified Angus, grass-fed, corn finish, whatever it is that a professional butcher would want, butcher would put together. You can sell locally a product like that, and you can put together deals, but you should not underestimate the value of having that distribution network and the ability to take product and move it into stores. Right. I don't think that this is going to replace all of the cattle packaging, the meat packing for cows in the country, but I think that the farmers who can do this absolutely should do this if it makes financial sense.
Precedence. It would set a good precedence if they could clear those legal and governmental hurdles. Then other areas, regions where there's multiple farms, multiple ranchers, let's say we're using cattle, they will probably try to do the same thing. And they'll come together and be like, well, look, they're seeding here. Maybe we should try that, and that would be good, I think, if it could clear those hurdles.
Yeah. I was just going to quickly interject and say I posted a link in the private chat, Harry, regarding for a video kind of covering some of the stuff for meat shortages being intentional. If you we'll link it later in the description notes as well, but I don't know if you just want to.
No, we should probably link it. I don't want to derail things too badly. You got to keep the show moving. Got to keep it fresh. Got to keep it snappy.
Yeah, I was making me hungry.
In answer to Gamer Valine, though, I missed the nuclear plant conversation. Where California only finds nuclear power bad. In their state, they have no problem sourcing 25% of the output from the Palo Verde plant in Arizona. I have it on good authority that the electrons are cleaned of their radioactivity on the way into at the state line. So it's all good. It's
only
all
free range electrons that were generated using union labor. Those are the only ones that are good enough.
Exactly.
There's a super duper super secret electron scrubber in Havasu.
Yeah, right.
Well, people are always
needles.
hypocrites about stuff.
Yeah.
The last thing they want you to do is tell them that that their worldview is wrong. They're much happier not knowing. They don't want to know about any of this.
And they're amazingly ignorant. But anyway, go ahead.
I mean, I'm
your
painfully pro-nuclear.
As
Now, one of the things that came up when we were chatting about the show during the week leading up to the show was this thing. Jay Leno admits comedians have to adapt their jokes to fit cancel culture. Well, that is one possible approach that one could have. So Jay is basically accused of having a history of making racist jokes about Asian Americans. Now, this guy, no pun intended, his name is Guy Aoki, and he's the leader of an activist group called Media Action Network for Asian Americans.
Of course
he previously said that the Jay Leno's Garage host repeated comments that were part of a larger problem that meant Asian Americans were subjected to ridicule, disdain, and abuse. And that resulted in a rise in racial profiling and hate crimes against Asians, Asian Americans, and immigrants.
Okay.
Yes, the most successful group by just about any measure,
No
other
kidding.
than like some Nigerian immigrants,
I have something to say to
are
Mr.
these people, right?
to Mr. Aoki. Could you pass the word through the community then to learn to fucking drive?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
That'd be great. Thanks.
So Jay Leno put out this said, I am issuing this apology. I do not consider this particular case to be another example of cancer culture, but a legitimate wrong that was done on my part. Well, then why are you talking about cancel culture? Okay, I get that this is your apology, but why are you talking about how we have to adapt to cancel culture when we're not talking about cancel culture? This just strikes me as a nonsensical statement.
Maybe he's just talking about cancel culture on his own time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now I haven't actually been able to find what these jokes were, because in my opinion, the only thing a comedian should ever apologize in terms of a joke is it not being funny.
Yes.
You got one job.
Yeah.
Be funny.
Exactly.
I don't know. Venture spleens, people.
But Dankula had a bit of a take on this. It's one of those things where I'm like, he was a bit more sympathetic to Jay Leno's commentary because he's basically saying, in the modern day, if you're a comedian on the stand-up stage, you gotta kind of be careful. If you do want to try and make it big, you do have to be careful. But at the same time, it's like, this is just incredibly disappointing for me because Jay Leno was the night show host I did watch growing up. So,
well, dude, how do you fit? How do you fit?
Money. He doesn't
how do you
need
fit
to
cancel
do a
culture?
stage.
How do you fit cancel culture? What does that even look like? Because cancel culture is a moving target.
Yeah, but I thought cancel culture wasn't real.
Sorry, Prospero, you were trying to talk and I was busy stammering.
No, that's okay. We both just gave it to me.
Yeah.
I got it from Agnes. There's your Tom Lair reference, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. I was going to say, drink up.
Jay Leno has fuck you money.
Yeah.
He doesn't ever need to get up on a stage again. Now, I can say if
his fuck you money has fuck you money.
Oh, good God, yes. I mean, and his cars have fuck you money to say fuck you to his fuck you money. I mean, the guy is rolling in it. Because he never, except for his cars, he didn't live a complex lifestyle. So these, as advice to up and comers, yes, what Dankula was saying, Geodes, I can understand thinking very clearly if you want to make it big, you have to be a bit more nuanced in your commentary, in your comedic commentary. It can be done too. I mean, you don't have to. You can mock people without being cruel to them. It's some people have the gift of being funny that way. I just, this is positively aggravating. And also, if you're going to talk about the hate crimes that are committed against Asians, it is disingenuous to think that the crowd that would watch Jay Leno are the ones that are perpetrating them, because I don't think his demographics tended in that direction.
Yeah, he was a nighttime host. You know, they were busy jogging.
He wasn't on BET, is my point.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean,
And we know where the major problem exists.
Cancel culture itself. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I was going to say, I mean, like, you know, then there's the other talk show host I occasionally would catch, which was Craig Ferguson. And I mean, you know, if it'd be, and it's like, you know, he was pretty great too, but I mean, I could easily see a target being painted on his back because his routine was kind of the creepy old uncle figure, if you will, kind of. So
yeah.
The
I mean,
prick didn't give a shit.
he does, and I don't think he does anymore.
He still doesn't know.
I have another stupid analogy for you. You know, people talk about how it's oppressive for men to try to pick up women, to make a pass at them, right? To proposition them. Maybe that's the correct way to phrase it, right? It's wrong for men to just proposition women and make an unsolicited proposition. But this is usually what's said when they think that the man making the proposition is beneath their station. You know, if you think you're a stone cold 7 and you got a bunch of 4s coming around, sniffing around, trying to get a date with you, then it seems pretty oppressive. But if somebody walks in and this guy's like a smoking hot 9, then the things sort of change. And I think humor is a lot of times the same way. The real sin is not being funny. You know, you can say pretty much anything if it's funny enough. And I think that a lot of times that the whole issue of cancel culture, not cancel culture, artistic freedom gets mixed up. If you're funny enough, you can say pretty much any damn thing you want.
That's why it's sliding off of Dave Chappelle's shoulders.
Exactly. Some of the stuff Dave Chappelle did in his career is just edgy as hell and funny as hell.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that Chappelle has kind of taken this tack now, where he has said, and some people are accusing him of backsliding. Fine, I'm just not going to discuss certain groups of people at all. That also means he's ignoring you. You're not going to get any notice at all. If you want to be utterly and completely ignored, totally overlooked by society, and no one ever pay attention to you again, we can give you that. We can grant you that request.
Actually, they're starting to cover that, though, Prospero. They're starting to come out and say that if you don't pay attention, if you look away, they call it looking away.
Yeah.
If you look away from people, that is violence. That's no different from rape.
Right, absolutely.
And it is literally physically the same thing as rape.
Well, for my own sanity, as well as the sanity of this society, I really wish that we would stop indulging neurotics.
Yes, I agree.
I'm tired of every person's imaginary friend whispering in their ear that person is looking at them funny. Got their day to complain. No, shut up. Nobody was looking. If you knew how little other people actually thought of you, you'd be amazed.
Yeah. We really don't care. That's really a great point.
Most people you think are looking at you are looking right through you.
That's true. They people care. You know, Julius Caesar had it right. It's bred in circuses. It really is. It's not really much more than that.
We're trying to build a kinder. I'm sorry, Skep. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, people care about their daily life. How easy and hard are the little things in their daily life? That's pretty much all they care about. These how many genders there are, what your pronouns are. That is going to be a flash in the pan. That's going to go out of vogue so quickly. It won't even be. It'll be remembered like my mother the car, with that level of trivia.
I certainly hope it is roundly mocked as my mother the car, because this unbelievable As Harry mentioned Tuesday, it is the absence of scarcity in one's life that gives you the leisure time to sit around and cook up grievances.
We're going to fix that. I think that's what Biden's going to take care of. He's going to make sure we can all experience things. But speaking of
Break everything that bad.
Speaking of
get a
round,
shin and
you're
you
going to
get a
love this
shin.
segue. Speaking of round things that we can mock, Tess Holiday slams media for sharing photos of her eating at Disneyland. It's corny and harmful.
Did you see Bering's video on it?
I did not. I'm
That's
sure it
really-
was delightful. So
Yeah, it
Tess
was
Holiday
pretty
went to Dismaland, or was it Dismal World? Disneyland. And apparently the Mirror and some other UK, the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror decided to mostly just show pictures of her looking tired and eating.
And eating, yeah.
So
guys, come on. She had a whole 14 seconds without food in her mouth the entire trip. They could have taken a photo then, but they chose not to. Clearly, this is just to body shame her. Clearly.
Hey, put down the turkey leg and we'll get a picture of you.
She's the only person in the world with uses a Dremel tool as a toothpick.
Okay, so I mean, I don't care how Tess Holiday lives her life, and if she was in front of me, I would treat her absolutely fine. But instead, she's making stupid comments in the news and telling me that I have to pay attention, which I think opens the floor up to me saying, I understand that it's kind of a dick move if this is actually what happened, but you're trying to turn this into some sort of evidence of an existential crisis for plus-size people. And I think in terms of your threat matrix, you might want to realign it to some other things. Your biggest problem right now is not the fact that the Daily Mirror keeps taking pictures of you shoving corn dogs in your pie hole. This is just not the thing you should be worried about. But yeah, she's just very stunning and brave about this whole thing. And I just wanted to bring it up because it makes a beautiful segue to the next thing. But I think Functional wants to say something.
Let's not forget that obesity-related fatalities absolutely dwarf any recent events that have come along to cause such a panic, and yet we still seem to these media pundits still want to treat it as though it's and these factivists want to body positive movement and all that. It's like, maybe we should be addressing that if you really cared about saving lives. But no, it's all theater.
We don't have our fashion correspondents here, but apparently the new thing that we're all supposed to believe about fashion is farewell high-waisted skinny jeans, the low-rise returns. So we have this fit young model, Bella Hadid, here, and you can see her exposed midriff. There was another article that came about the same time. Sorry, I'm pulling this from the thing. Cleavage is over. Welcome to the age of killer abs. So, so the news has spoken, and we on the one hand we're supposed to be really nice to Tess Holiday, but on the other hand we're supposed to really like women with six packs. Now, maybe some.
She's got an 18-pack.
Well, she's got a 6-pack, but it's inside like a cooler, like a big cooler.
Exactly.
Right?
It's a
you can't
pack.
see it. It's there underneath.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to reconcile what the news is telling me because I take all of my fashion cues from the news.
Of course.
So
First of all, those high-waisted mom jeans sucked. So good, they're gone. Second is the pinnacle of attractiveness is generally for both men and women who are fit and have certain proportionality to them, but generally one of the commonalities was they are fit, whether or not they are more, if we're talking women, more curvaceous women, they would still the pinnacle would still be very fit but curvaceous. With models like Bella Hadid here, she's very skinny but also very very fit. So I don't see that as being anything but like kind of a nothing burger because fit people have always been ideal.
Yeah,
and
Barbie dolls didn't get to look that way for no reason.
Yeah. They better have a meeting of the press and figure out which narrative they're trying to send out.
both at the
because
same time.
I'm terribly confused. I do think this is okay in terms of people who are modeling, right, at the highest level of their profession, because what they're selling is a fantasy. They're selling this fantasy about how the world is supposed to be, right? So you're seeing this idealized thing. That doesn't mean that if you meet somebody and they're not showing their midriff and you don't know whether or not they have six-pack abs, that you should kind of like view them differently. It seems like a very superficial way to pick people out. In previous editions of this show, we talked about how rapidly people swipe left and right on dating apps. They don't even read the stuff about that people write about themselves, because of course most of it's probably lies anyway, but they just look at the picture and go, she looks fit, swipe, swipe, swipe. It all seems terribly, terribly superficial to me, but in the world of fashion, I think it's okay, right? But in terms of everyday life, I wouldn't judge somebody based on whether they have a 2-pack or a 6-pack. Just
Or a mini
kind of
keg.
basically take care of yourself, and because I don't want to get too attached to somebody that's just going to die because they don't take care of themselves. That's the extent of my interest.
The only thing that concerns me about the lowriders coming back functional is we've had the muffin top with the high waist because okay, ladies, here's a hint from Grandma Fat. Make sure your pants fucking fit and you won't look as obese as you are.
Mhm.
If your
Prospero,
pants are
Instagram. There's no
Yeah.
muffin tops on Instagram. Come on.
Right.
Seriously, you know what happened? But seriously,
wear the
what
proper
happens-
size.
What happens is people buy clothes when they're a certain size, and inevitably in our society they get fatter and they don't buy new clothes. They can, this is especially true if you go to places like Walmart. They don't buy new clothes. They just stuff themselves into the same old clothes that they used to have. And they say to some poor, long-suffering husband, "Do I look okay?" And he knows what's good for him. "Yes, honey, you look fine." And they go out and they end up on social media.
Well, there's some buttons that are likely to kill a random cinematographer in Walmart.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, yeah, absolutely. A lot of potential energy there. Just
Oh,
ready to go
baby.
kinetic.
The thing I like is when you're wearing spandex and you can see the individual white threads in the spandex.
Yes.
You need to go up a size, or
Just
put
don't wear spandex.
or put the fork down, for the love of God. But
Get on one of those treadmills that Jen Psaki won't let you have.
I'm just terrible though, because I mean, remember I sent you and Skep a picture. I think this will actually load it.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can make this be smaller. This is the fantasy that we used to have, right? This is what, Vogue 1956.
Long-legged, tall,
Susie Parker and
curvaceous.
And who did you say the dude
Gardner
was?
Gardner
McKay.
Yeah, Gardner McKay. I think that's who it is.
Yeah,
It does
because
look like
everything is just, I think it's Gardner McKay, but the everything is just sort of changed. So this is an extremely stylized thing, a fantasy that you're selling people. That you can live this kind of life, you can be this beautiful, you can do all these things. This is a very elaborate thing, and it's been replaced with influencers, right? I mean, it's like, I understand the whole like classic glamour thing. I don't really understand how the whole influencer economy kind of works in terms of what's the psychological hook, in terms of the person that's sort of like is a fan of these people.
More of that
Yeah.
parasocial,
Well,
more of that
you-
parasocial relationship, where if you are hanging with the person who's getting the Bali
Exactly.
trip to show everybody the thing, somebody that went to Bali,
Well,
which puts you one
Prospero,
step closer to Bali.
When you look at that person and you compare her with the picture of Susie Ann Gardner,
Yes.
who would you rather hang with? Would you rather hang with them or with
I don't want to hang with fantasies, so that's part of. But for the
who looks more
stylized
interesting?
ideal,
Who looks
oh
more
yeah,
interesting to you.
um,
Who looks more attractive to
well,
you?
that photograph alone is
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, this one.
to be in the room to experience all that hoo-ha nouveau going on in there.
Yeah, Richard Avedon was one hell of a photographer.
It's a hell of a
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
hell of a framing on that
Yeah.
photograph.
That's an absolutely perfect picture.
It is. It's that looks like the piss elegance of having all the fuck you money that we all dreamed that we had, and that kind of thing. And that's
There's a bit more context.
Yeah, that's just glorious. But
Yeah.
it's. I guess I've always recognized that was a fantasy, and so I don't even. I'd fantasize myself in this picture before I would with any of the shit for brains influencers I've seen, because I think they're vapid. Those people, I bet there was an interesting conversation in this room, the one we're looking at now.
Well,
Yeah.
between the art
Yeah, yeah.
director and Richard Avedon, I'm sure it was because they understood what the hell they were doing.
But there would be some witty and urbane people. It would be more the James Bond life than my 600-pound life.
That's
Yeah.
probably a pretty good place to end it on. Before
Sorry
we get
for
ourselves
that gross
in,
comparison.
in too much trouble. So I'm going to
View?
put a pin in it and just say thank you to everybody. Do you guys have anything you want to say before we sign off?
Just stop.
Just that
If it-
Bart. Oh, I go ahead. Functional.
I was gonna say,
Just stop.
yeah, I was gonna say if the last bit motivated you to get fit, go for it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, fitness of the mind is as important as fitness of the body, and fitness of the spirit is also. It's not about one thing. Six-pack abs are not a substitute for being
Well-
an interesting, decent human being, and vice
Well,
versa.
well,
You kind of have to take care of all of it.
Well, I
Mind,
mean,
body, and soul.
true, but at the same time, if you got a body that is fit and feels good, that generally helps out the mind too. So
Yep, it's all.
and doesn't, you
connected.
don't need a six pack.
Yeah,
You
but-
just you know.
They're all
Yeah.
very interconnected for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
The thing I was going to add was it's just utterly frivolous, but Gardner McKay was in a I think it was a 2 or 3 year long series called Adventures in Paradise, and they were based on some of the James Michener plot lines. And if you want to watch some good old style TV, go look up Adventures in Paradise. I know there are episodes of it, probably the whole series on YouTube that's available to watch, and it's great fun to view that stuff. That's all I've got.
Excellent.
All right. Well, let's put a tidy end to this. The zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.